Well, the other big story from next month, Lal Battis or red beacons will be banned for everybody across the country, including the President, Prime Minister and the Chief Justice of India. There will be no exceptions except for emergency vehicles like fire engines, ambulances and police vans, which are allowed to now have the blue beacon. It's part of the crackdown on VIP culture that many would agree has almost become a part of who we are.
Nitin Gadkari, Giriraj Singh, Mahesh Sharma, Vijay Goyal among the first union ministers to remove Lal Battis from their cars. Maharashtra Chief Minister too tweeted his decision to stop using Lal Battis. This just after the government announced a ban on their use across the country. Though most of the union ministers left this morning's cabinet meeting where this decision was taken with their red beacons on. But from the 1st of May, these Lal Battis, a glaring symbol of India's VIP culture, will be a thing of the past. No one will be allowed to use them, not the Prime Minister or the President or the Chief Justice of India.
ये सेंट्रल रूल है और केंद्र सरकार संशोधन करके इस रूल को रूल बुक से हटा रही है. देश में और कोई भी व्हीकल देश में रेड लाइट नहीं कैरी कर पाएगा.
Emergency services like the fire brigades, ambulances and police vehicles, however, will be allowed to use the blue beacons.
If any ministers are coming, if in case of emergency going hospitals, they will stop again. The patient will be in very not good condition. If it's normal way, means the ambulance can move very good and it will save our time.
Withdrawing red lights or the Lal Battis is a welcome change and an end to the VIP culture. But the big question remains is, will our VIPs find a new way to continue with this privilege? With camera person Kanan Patra, Sunil Prabhu, NDTV.
Well, let me now introduce my panel on this other big debate of the evening. I'm joined by Shaina NC, spokesperson of the BJP, Abhishek Singhvi, still with us, Rajya Sabha MP and spokesperson Congress, and Sanjay Srivastava, professor of Sociology, Institute of Economic Growth, University of Delhi. Thanks all so much for being with us. Dr. Singhvi, let me start by asking you. I mean, this is, of course, being driven by the Prime Minister, no less. We are told we've seen top ministers tweeting all evening, putting out pictures of their cars without those red beacons. You would agree that the optics on this in a country which is fed up of VIP culture and VIP arrogance is right?
I don't think there would be virtually any dissent on a decision like this. In fact, overwhelming public opinion is behind it generally. I will remind you that some years ago, members of parliament made a demand for beacons, red beacons in their cars, and I had written an official strong letter to the then government opposing it. But this is only part of the story. There is no doubt true that it breeds a culture of arrogance and privilege which must go. It breeds a culture of entitlement which must go. But this is a very, very fractional, partial story, and the other part of the story you must not forget. It's no point having no red lights, but having the same arrogance, the same culture of dominance. If you stop everybody in your path for hours without sensitivity, if you break queues, if you have 10 people accompanying and walking with you when you go to the airport, if you have 18 people entering a place with you, so it's a good beginning, but the red light is a very small part, a fractional part of the larger picture.
Okay.
With that must go this throwing your weight around culture.
Absolutely.
You can do, you have seen the President of India and the Prime Minister of UK are better protected or as well protected as our people. Have you ever seen the obtrusive nature in which they move according to our VIPs? Have you seen the kind of pushing and shoving which happens? Why can't we develop that culture?
Right.
And that's the real larger answer through which we have to start doing. This is only a very, very cosmetic part of it.
It's a cultural thing. We've seen VIPs, we've seen, top political honchos cutting across political lines and the kind of VIP culture that, is around them. Shaina, come in at this stage. The point that's being made is, yes, it's great optics. Nobody can argue that it's not a step in the right direction. But for those who say that, what does it really do tangibly? What do you get? You remove the red light, but there's no difference between the haves and the have-nots. Is that doesn't go away. There's still the red light is a symbol of awe, it's a symbol of privilege, and there's a lot of anger against it. But none of that really goes away just by removing that one beacon. How would you respond to that, China?
Natasha, firstly, I think that the Prime Minister has led by example. This is a bold, historic decision, and it's not just cosmetic. This is not just about ego or inflated or deflating egos of elected representatives, but this is to bring them back as a reality check that you are an elected representative, and the best thing is to be with your people with simplicity rather than arrogance. We have seen time and again that ministers or people in positions of power, how they have misused their status through the red light, whether it is breezing and brushing through traffic, or whether it is certain privileges at esteemed occasions of ribbon cutting, etc. So I think this is the only beginning. Okay. I'd like to applaud leaders like Nitin Gadkari and Devendra Fadnavis and Giriraj Singh that have done it immediately and not even waited for a kind of a timeline. It's important to understand that in a country like ours, where you have the privileged who treat it like a status symbol, they have done away with it, not just on the orders of the Prime Minister, but because they truly believe that, this arrogant VVIP culture that has been dismissed by public is the need of the hour. So I want to welcome it in totality. We can talk about what needs to follow, but at least the Prime Minister has had the guts to take such a bold decision. It
is of course a bold decision, and the point of course that you're making, everyone's falling in line. But let me ask you, Sanjay Srivastav, is getting rid of Lal Batti is not the same as getting rid of VIP culture, is it?
No, the issue isn't so much the VIP culture. There are much deeper structural problems. The most poor people, I actually don't think they're so concerned about Lal Battis and Blue Battis. They're actually concerned about access to resources, the kind of access that, say, politicians have, bureaucrats of a certain in a certain echelon of society have. So, I actually don't think that large numbers, I know that no one's going to oppose this, but large numbers of people who do not have the kind of entitlements that they ought to have, don't have access to resources, those structural problems I don't think we're willing to do very much about. So I would much rather
have... It has become symbolic, that Lal Batti, Lal Batti culture, that VIP culture just becomes symbolic of that entitlement, of that privilege, and like I said, the difference between the haves and the have-nots.
Well, the problem is that if you get rid of certain symbols, you think you've actually done the job of getting rid of what lies behind the symbols. So no one is going to oppose this particular measure, but I would really challenge politicians and bureaucrats in particular to make accessible to large numbers of people access to themselves, which is, those are the kind of things that people who don't have access to Lal Batti, don't have access to houses and streets need. I think this is all well and good, but as I think people have pointed out, politicians in particular, and of course media loves nothing more than something to catch his eyeballs.